Welcome back to the Better Divorce Podcast. You may know who I am, you may not, but just in case you don't, my name is Paulette Hazel, and I am the founder and CEO of Better Divorce Academy for mediation and certified divorce coach services, Better Divorce Blueprint, the book and workbook, and audiobook, and soon the online course, and my retreats, Best Life Ever in Belize. Yes, Belize. I said that. And my next one is May 4th to the 10th. The landing page is afterthenarcissist.com. But today I am going to talk about money with a CDFA. And you may or may not know what a CDFA is. And if not, hang on, grab your notebook because you're going to want to take notes. If you are in any stage of divorce and you have assets, and significant is a tricky word. To some people that could be $10, to other people that could be 10 billion, but money is money. And when it comes to divorce, we talk money. So welcome to the podcast, Hazel Secco. She's the founder and CEO of Align Financial Solutions. Welcome, Hazel. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I'm so glad. So for just the definition of what a CDFA is, could you just define that term? Many people don't know what they are and don't know what they do. So what is a CDFA and why might someone want one?
So CDFA is Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. So a lot of time, I guess, people go to attorney for all the aspects of the divorce. But the CDFA is sort of like a new designation that kind of helps with the financial impact of divorce.
And do they act as like a CPA or a financial advisor? Is it very similar? Is it very different? Is there any crossover?
Yeah, I think some CPA might just do a little bit of crossover work, but CDFA focuses a little bit more of like a personal finances. What's the implications because of the divorce? What happens, after divorce to my retirement planning, or, kind of like a scenario planning, financial projections of what's going to happen after divorce versus, I think CPAs, they tend to become a forensic accountant during the divorce, and then they do a little bit more of a investigative financial transactions type of work.
That's good because there's a lot of different financial professionals that a couple or an individual could or might need if they're facing divorce. So one might be a tax preparer, right? Such as a CPA, somebody that can look at your income and expenses and tax ramifications and help you with that. And making sure that you also have a copy, not only a digital one in the cloud, but an actual, like tangible heart that you can hold in your hand copy, because sometimes things vanish in divorce.
Yes.
If you're just listening to the audio, my hands are, like poof. I can't tell you how many percent. Well, it was on my phone. It was on my computer. I had it on this drive and I don't know what happened to it. So always make sure that you have a hard copy and a cloud copy, maybe even 2 copies. So when in doubt, make 2 copies. Then the tax preparation, but then somebody to actually look at the assets for that you may have had while you're married, right? Would be a financial advisor. Are you putting money in checking, savings, bonds, Robinhood, I'm crypto, stock market, pretending to know what I'm talking about with money. Are you investing it in short-term, long-term, growth, all those things? Like it's overwhelming, so that you have that long-term strategy throughout the marriage of how to grow your marital wealth, right? That could be somebody that you've had, but that may not be somebody that you want to continue to work with because, well, the spouse may have a relationship with that professional or more than a relationship than you have had, or maybe it's a financial professional that you've had a relationship with and your spouse doesn't as much. So it can be, it's almost like that situation when you're married and like which friends you're going to keep and which friends you're going to lose. Like, are you on team wife or team husband?
Yeah, it's
Financial
interesting.
professionals can be weird that way
Yeah.
emotionally.
No, it's like really interesting, especially as a female financial planner. You get looked at a little bit weird because, you would think of them a little bit more like a, paralegal side of the finance, or, assistant, or like whatever like that. And then it, because of that specific skewed relationship between professionals and wives, or, women specifically, that's one of the reasons that I started focusing, helping women through divorce, because
Mm,
when they already had a certified financial planner or financial planner for their together finances, it's great because they're only dealing with the husband side. But once that dynamic is over, yes, the financial planner keeps, suggesting to work together, but women don't feel as comfortable because you don't know what their relationship is like. They might be a lot closer personally or professionally. So,
yeah.
you know, I recommend having like objective separate relationship professionally, and then especially to establish basically your new financial life, new beginning after divorce. CDFA could be a good transitional professional that can help during the divorce. So it's like, what does it mean? Like equitable division of the assets, but what does that mean? How much will I actually get?
Mhm.
Depending on the what kind of assets you have. And
Sure.
then after divorce, you can carry on working with that person if they are also working as a financial planner, so that you can secure your financial future for your new life.
Yes. So I want to come back to that because that's a key conversation of what exactly is equitable division of marital assets. And some states are equitable division and others are community property. So that those may be two separate conversations based on where you live and if you're in Canada or Europe. So, hang tight. The laws are slightly different everywhere, but there's going to be some division of the pie. In some states, if there's $100 in the checking account, one spouse gets 50 and the other spouse gets 50. No qualms about it. But there are some other issues that may come into play with that. And I like to think of it as non-marital, premarital, and marital, and those different buckets that may be empty or quite full based on how long have you been married? Do you have a business together? Did you have a business before you met, and many, many other constituents. But before we go down the money road, I want to start with like, what got you to have this love for money and want to, not that I'm saying you're greedy by any means. I mean, love for understanding it and, helping people with it. Cause for many people, money can be a sore spot and a fear based on how you grew up. My biggest quote that I remember my parents saying about money was, money doesn't grow on trees. It's like,
That's a
and
famous
I would
quote.
go outside and be like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. And I would think like, what does that mean? Of course, from a 4-year-old's point of view, I was
Oh.
like, okay, well, I think leaves grow on trees, or we had a cherry blossom tree, so cherry blossoms do. But I kind of got it. My mother was an entrepreneur, and my father was corporate, but he did actually become an entrepreneur after he left that job. So I understood money and making money and documenting money. And my mother used to always have receipts everywhere.
Mm.
Receipts. She was all upset if I didn't give her a receipt for something. She's like, did you get a receipt? Did you get a receipt? I'm like, I forgot the receipt. And so I would be like, let me go back and get it. So then to the point when I actually stopped working with her, I would keep my own receipts, even though I wasn't working. And I would give her my receipts just so she could tax deduct everything I spent money on, just so she'd have extra receipts to make up for all the receipts I didn't give her when I was 12. So it's a funny money story, right? And I was like, hey, Mom, I've got some receipts for you. I know you didn't actually spend this money, but back in the day when you get a receipt and it didn't actually say where the store was, like that, we'd get grocery receipts and they were this wide and like this long. And it would just say 79 cents 29 cents, $1.50. It didn't actually say what you bought, you know.
Right, right,
Now,
right.
like they tell you where you were, what store you're at, what time you left, what time you showed up, who was the, like, it's talk about Big Brother. But, and of course, most everything's now digital too, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's all, oh, like I emailed you the receipt. You're like, you did? Okay, So it's a little different. But the point is, we all have a money story, right? So,
True.
what made you get into helping people with money and particularly with divorce? What's your story?
Huh. That's a great question. Because that really is important to me, like why I started what I'm doing right now. Um, so I mean, it's gonna be like a long story, but I'll make it short.
Okay, I love it, Hazel.
the That's I actually start with my clients what their money story is. I feel like it's so important. Sometimes like that money blocks or money script that they have can be really intrusive when they're making decisions, financial decisions. But mine started off as you said, it's like no means that I'm obsessed with money, but like I was obsessed with money. Like when I was growing up, I was I didn't know why, but I really wanted to be rich. I really was almost, yeah, obsessed about saving and money and like how do I become rich type of thing. And I realized when I was already grown up why that was the case. It's because I didn't get to like live with my mom or dad because now I know that my mom was in a financially abusive relationship with my dad. But it was interesting because you shared a little bit about your story, but my mom was an entrepreneur. My dad was gambling addict, and then she was the provider and he was always, I mean, like I was too in the situation. It was very unhealthy, but I didn't realize it at that time. But because of that, actually I went to major in psychology. I thought something was wrong with me. And then I wanted to study more, and then I wanted to learn more about how we think, because it was just not making a lot of sense to me from like upbringing and all the like a financial situation with the family, how everything was intertwined, but I just couldn't understand it. So I went to the so it's like I was born and raised in South Korea, and then I went to Japan, and then I came to University of Buffalo. I mean, everybody asked me why Buffalo, but I ended up there, and then I majored in psychology, and then I ended up becoming a financial advisor right after, which was really interesting because I thought I'm going to be a psychologist. So I guess that, yeah, like kind of subconscious obsession over money kind of brought me back to that financial advisor, financial planner type of work. And then I didn't know where I was really going with that job, because like a financial planner could be everything, like like it could be insurance agent, it could be like transactional, like salesperson, it could be just a lot of different things. But and then I was a lot of different things, and then I became a certified financial planner, thinking that I'm going to be really successful entrepreneur, business owner, like whatever you name it. But I guess when I started having children, I was, I married pretty early, and then I just recently had two beautiful daughters, and then I was just realizing that, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I felt really like not as good as some of the male financial advisors or male counterparts, and I felt really, I don't know, self-conscious and like almost having a lot of different thoughts about being a financial advisor. And then that's when I realized, like, like I'm not listening to what I want to do, but I'm kind of listening to the what society views as a typical financial advisor. And then I was trying to follow after them, but I wasn't good at following after them. I was good enough, but I wasn't good, like I wasn't good myself. Like I was doing horrible, like mentally. So that's when I figured out, like, clearly this is not working. This is not what I want to do. And then what do I want to do? And then that's when I sort of went back to my old history of, my manuscript, my mom helping women. How do I advocate for women? I was my mom's advocate for my entire life. How do I make that into my work? How do I help women? And then that's how I sort of got to
Mm.
here.
So you took that experience you had as a child or a young teen, young woman, from remembering how your mom struggled because of
Yes.
your dad's addiction or issue with, gambling, which has got to be stressful. I can't imagine for somebody that's not a gambler. I can never understand why people are so emotional about sports. And my husband has to remind me, they're gambling, Paulette. It's about money. It's not about the game. And I go, oh, they gamble? Horrible. Like I don't gamble. I go to Vegas to see the shows,
Yeah.
or to, look at art galleries and cute, like amazing shoes that I would never wear, but they're super cool. Or I go on a cruise and I walk through the casino. I'm like, all I hear is ding a ding a ding a ding a ding a ding, and I go, oh, can we leave now? But gambling is just not mine because I don't like the feeling of risk.
Hmm.
Like, or I'll say, okay, how much is it worth for me to sit at a slot machine for an hour or 10, whatever amount of time you've got time to kill? Okay, $100. And I go, okay, it's entertainment. If I make money, great. If I lose $100, it was an investment. It was entertainment, like going to a show or something, right? I don't want my
Right,
money
right, right.
back. And I put in that well, you don't even put in quarters anymore. It's all just, boring.
Yeah.
There's something about putting the quarter in the machine that's
Yeah,
different than hitting a button.
definitely.
I know. So when you used to put a quarter in, I mean, I'm almost 60, so these are the memories I have. You put it in and you go 25 cents. You're like, okay, all right. You hit it and you lose. You go, all right, another 25 cents. Whereas if you just hit a button, you're like, it's only money. It's only,
Right, right, right.
it's just a button.
You
Delete,
don't feel
delete,
it as
delete.
much.
Yeah. It's like deleting email. You're like, bye,
Yeah.
bye. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my aversion to gambling. So, and I didn't grow up in a family where anyone gambled. So I can only imagine the fear or the trepidation of having that sense of wanting to have some more security, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
and
right,
safety
right.
of needing that safety of having that, your poor mom. So let's talk a little bit. Why don't people know about CDFAs? They know about CPAs and they know
Yeah.
about financial advisors, right? I know there's like 59 acronyms after somebody's name because there's
Yes.
many different ways of being a financial advisor. I think they invent new ones just to annoy people, but why do you think it's such a mystery?
I think, I mean, CDFA is a fairly new designation, I would say. And then also a lot of just typical financial planners without particular designations could technically help throughout the process. You don't need the designation to help. So
Right.
I think it just has been sort of hidden in the back. But I think there has been always the divorce financial advisor or financial advisor in, that was kind of helping the household. But right now, maybe we're just trying to make sure that women do have enough resources to go through divorce. Because a lot of times, like, I mean, for me, I seeked out for this specific designation because women were coming to me after everything was settled, and they were like, oh, my divorce was amicable and this is what I got. And then I would be like, what happened? And then they said, oh, it's like, this is what my husband said, this is the right way to do it, and then we did it, and then it's all finalized. And then I would go look at that, and then they didn't think about the taxable implications. So it's like, after tax, he got so much more than what she would have gotten. And then, but it's already settled, so it would be so much more
Mm,
costly for everyone team to go back to the court and attorney, everyone to adjust that. And then now it would just take so much more effort and time and money and everything. So people just settle, and people were like, whatever. But like, it's really hard to recoup what you lost during divorce. It's it's such a like devastating life event, and then a lot of people, they want to move on, so they're like, forget it. But that's so unfair. You just didn't have, enough resources to make yourself informed and educated decisions. So why don't I help them during the process? That's why, I got involved in doing that. But I think that's one of the reasons that
Mm,
CDFA is a little bit.
true. Although I am the first to advocate, in fact, many financial advisors reach out to me knowing the work I do, and they ask if I would partner with them. And I always say, are you a CDFA? And
Wow.
not to be condescending, but to basically be educational. And many of them say, and I'm not joking, no, why? What's that? And they get defensive. And I go, well, if you're a financial advisor, you pretty much should do your homework and not be asking me what that question is. You should already know. But I don't say that. I go, well, it's a designation and da da da. So maybe you
Right.
should think about becoming one. So, because to me, it's vital. If you're going to be an expert in a very laser focused problem solving world, which is my
Right.
mantra, my mission. I'm literally on a mission. Um,
Right.
it is essential that I work with those professionals. I work with I would say hiring. It's like if you need a root canal, you don't go to a heart surgeon.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And if you want or need a divorce lawyer, don't go to just any lawyer. You don't go to a DUI specialist or a bankruptcy attorney or a real estate attorney. You only do family law. That's it.
Yeah.
That's your gig, right? And I work with CDREs, certified divorce real estate experts, and certified divorce lending professionals. In fact, my
Yes.
husband is one. He's a mortgage expert, but he has the
Wow.
designation of a CDLP. And it's very essential that you work not just with a coach, but a expert in divorce, right?
Hmm.
So I don't coach on wellness, although I could. I'm an Ayurveda consultant, macrobiotic chef, and yoga teacher trainer, and but I don't. I don't help. I don't coach people on fitness, health, money. I just divorce. That's it. That's my thing. That's what I'm
Yeah.
an expert in. You get in trouble when you don't find the right professional for the right task, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
number one, I think that's really good. Let's shift a little bit about these tax ramifications, okay? Because, I write I write memorandums of agreement, which is a mouthful. I like to call it an MOA, but most people are like, what is that? It's an agreement that we write in mediation where I act as a neutral party that helps the couple walk through the journey of coming up with an agreement through all of the categories that the courts require for divorce to hold water, to be legit and be real. And as they do that, of course, most of those topics have to do with money, right?
Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes it's, are you going to pick up Susie at 2 or 3 o'clock?
Right. Right.
That has
Right.
nothing to do with money, although depending on the person. I spent too much gas while I was waiting for you, and it always comes back to something. But you have to know that the agreement, if you're privately mediating, is controlled by the couple versus when you're litigating and it is controlled by the litigated process and ultimately decided upon with the judge if you cannot come up with an agreement. So it's contested unless if it's 99.9% uncontested, it's still contested. You have to agree on everything, literally everything. So
Hmm.
I write up these MOAs, and um, no, I don't do it, but I see sometimes that like the wife will get this IRA and the husband will get that IRA, but one is a Roth and one is a 401k. So one,
Yes.
the taxes have been paid before, and one, the taxes have been paid after. And the person that has to pay them after now is just inherited debt. They don't think
Right.
of it
Right.
that way, right? But so it's not always equitable, right? So,
Exactly.
important for people to know. So, how do you help? Um, a client that comes to you, particularly when the other party has not been transparent about what the assets are. They have to hunt, and they're guesstimating what might be in the accounts. It's hard when you don't know.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of people, like, even if they were a earner, like breadwinner or successful women, they don't know what they have. I mean, it's
Mhm.
hard. We have kids, we are caregivers, we have family, we work. Like, there's so much going on. Like, it's hard to track everything. So a lot of times, I mean, I deal with mostly in the tri-state, but cases that you submit the affidavits to the court or attorney, they don't know that attorneys are not going to make sure that you know every single item that you have. That's one of the biggest reasons I feel like the organizing finances with a certified divorce financial analyst is so important, because your life depends on it. Your financial future depends on this piece of paper that could be wrong. A lot of people, they have a misinformation or not updated information. The account number has changed, the financial institution has changed, but they don't know. And then they use the wrong data. And then if the court, or especially like you said, if it's litigated and then it's done by a judge who's just looking at the paper to process this, it's the wrong information. It's just surprising, but actually not surprising, to see so many mistakes in this a piece of paper affidavit that you have to submit to the court, judge, attorney, and everyone.
And speaking of affidavits, the Domestic Relations Financial Affidavit, known as the DERFA, if you want another acronym in your life, get divorced, because there'll be plenty of them. I should create a little acronym list, but
Oh
DERFA,
yeah.
how difficult that task is for most people. I'm going to say 90% of divorcing couples, the wife has difficulty filling this out, right? So the wife has her version, the husband has his version, or shall we say spouse A and spouse B. And the numbers aren't always going to be congruent, even though they're sharing a savings account, the numbers might be different, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
and of course, we have to understand that if you filled it out January 1st and then somebody else filled it out February 1st, the numbers would naturally be slightly different because of the market, and spending habits and saving habits and all that. Um, but for the most part, it's either apathy, lack of knowledge, lack of interest, or the person that's on top of it does it down to the penny and is a little obsessed with it being exact. Like, usually when I see affidavits with the point oh 0.01, I go, oh, uh-oh, we got one of those for you, And then
Hmm.
the other person just writes like 6,000. Like,
Hmm.
no bank account is ever $6,000. It's always $5,923.97, right? I mean, maybe it is some point $6,000, but
Yeah.
rarely. So you see the different personalities to have the vague, vanilla kind of, whatever type of filling it out, and it's usually in, pink marker pencil or crayon, and the other person that has it all typed up and a
Oh
spreadsheet,
yeah, yeah,
it's all perfect and with the tabs and like color coded, and they've already put what in each column and like, oh, this is going to be a fun mediation, because you can just sense the difference in the people, right? But you're so
yeah.
right. One of the things I love CDFAs do, and I'd love you to expand on this, is creating different scenarios. Like, if you receive blank for a settlement and you invest it in situation A, that you could live to the ripe old age of blank with blank percentage of success without living under a bridge. I don't know if that made sense. And if you receive this settlement and you invest it this way, then you could have an 85% chance of never running out of money, and if you
Yeah.
take settlement and you invest it in scenario C, then you'd have a 90% success of, never running out of money. So I love those pie charts of like different scenarios, and that most financial planners don't get. It's a different way of seeing it. And I know, particularly for women, they like to hold it in their hand, visualize it, and understand that when I'm 99 years old, I will not run out of money. So
Yeah.
therefore, I'm going to be okay accepting that offer, that settlement, because I'm going to be okay. That's this. I'm going to call it an insurance policy that some of them are seeking. Now, nobody can give you any guarantees, but
Right.
as far as it being at least a percentage, right? I think that's so helpful to so many people.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of time that like attorneys code of ethics is to get as much as possible. Just that's how they perform and work during divorce. So that's why I feel like the financial professional could chime in to give like insights because for example, like women, depending on your financial goals or dreams that you might have or what you want to prioritize, those scenarios should differ. Like some women is like, I don't care anything about finances, like I want to take the custody. I totally 100% understand as a parent, but sometimes like I want to get a retain a primary residence, like I want my children to grow up here. But if the financial aspect of that doesn't make any sense, and then you're holding on to the house for another like 2 to 3 years just to keep it, and then like you're wasting that financial implication during that 3 year process. So it's like I want to look at it holistically to see like what your goals, you have these goals, and then depending on what you do during the process of divorce, that's going to make differences in this situation or that situation. Like you said, probability of success, if you get this much of child support, how long will that last? And there's a millions of scenarios you can build, but I feel like it's a lot more visual and clearer to women, especially like going through a lot of complex scenarios and then looking at it from just like a high visual standpoint. This is going to make life a lot easier, versus this one, keeping the home and not as much cash available, but I'm just going to keep the home, and
Mm,
then I don't have cash flow coming in. Then what are you going to do in like 5 years? Like you have to think about your retirement planning, or
right.
there's just so many things to consider. So it's like to have the financial status in one kind of aggregated profile and then see like what you have and just compare, like what doesn't make sense, that doesn't make any sense. Like you should be able to say that that does not make sense for my financial future.
Mhm. Well, the problem that I see, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, when people come to me, and it does depend if they're coming to me for mediation as a couple, where we're trying to work through what is possible, versus somebody coming to me solo and they're, really looking for somebody to basically support what they want. It's a different goal, but the house is a contentious issue. And
Yes.
sometimes, depending on the ages of the children and the situations, particularly with special needs children, and you have a large percentage of divorcing families with special needs children now. But the women typically get attached to the sheetrock.
Mm-hmm.
Like to them, it's like memories. And this is where we brought the first baby home from the hospital. And this is where we had Christmas. And there's all these memories and like the house and the tangible things like the furniture. And like, it's not a liquid asset, I mean,
Right, right.
it's actually a liability. You've got real estate taxes, you have insurance, you have maintenance, you have heat, gas, internet. It's and do you qualify? Do you have the income? And I've seen many times a judge will award a party the marital home, only to find out that they do not qualify to buy their spouse out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's one of the biggest advantage of having a divorce, like a team of divorce professionals, including the financial expert, because they're like we are there, like empathetic and, emotionally there for you, but we're not emotionally attached to the house. So we'll be able to see more objectively what's the right thing to do. So a lot of times, like, they want to keep the house, yes, and then they're like, yeah, I can make it work, I can make it work. But whenever I see that kind of fixated to keeping the house and then have to liquidate it for cash in 2-3 years, that was just not a good decision. It's just an emotional decision, and then I'm there to guide you not to make a mistake on that.
Right. And having the right real estate expert and mortgage expert there too, a qualification, because it's rate and term. It isn't even a refinance in divorce. So it's a different experience. You might have a different interest rate and the terms be different because of the buying out of the equity for the partner is due to divorce, and not just, because you want to put in a swimming pool. It's a different,
Right.
process because of that. So there's so many things having to do with divorce that have to do with money. What do we say? 86% of divorce involves the sale or purchase of real estate, but 100% of divorce involves money. And you're going to have to figure out what to do. And unfortunately, I did a case that just had $800,000 worth of debt, and we had to do a bankruptcy as a part of their divorce agreement. So it isn't always the assets. Sometimes it's about who gets less debt, as in who gets
Wow.
more assets. So that's another thing too. Is it chapter 7? Is it chapter 13? And what are the ramifications also? So money is a complex thing. What I wanted everyone to have this takeaway with finding the right financial professional for you, making sure everybody's situation is different. No embarrassment, no guilt, no fear. Take a deep breath, get grounded, and reach out to those people that can really give you the guidance, the education, the options, and the tools that you need to be able to make the decision. The professionals will not make the decision for you, but they're going to give you all of your options. It's like going to a buffet.
Yeah,
You have to figure
I
out
love that.
what you're going to take and what you're going to leave behind. So otherwise you get a bellyache if you take it all. So I love this conversation. You are adorable, fabulous, gorgeous, so intelligent. So Hazel, tell everybody, what's the best way to find you, learn about you, follow you, and learn more about you?
You can always email me at hazel@alignfinancialsolutions.com. That's probably the best way to reach me.
Perfect. So thank you, everybody. Don't let money scare you. It's scary when you don't understand what to do. And also when you are told by your spouse or someone else that that's just not the way it's done. Or don't you worry about it. I got it handled. I'm going to take care of everything. And this is what's going to happen. As soon as you start to hear that, you probably want to say something like, okay, I hear you, and don't agree to anything. So always important to make sure you have the right information before you make any decisions. So you know how to find me, Paulette at Better Divorce Academy. See you next time. Thank you, Hazel.
All right. Thank you, Paulette.
Until next time, have a better divorce. It doesn't want to stop. It's being weird.
Oh.
There we go.